Hello, everyone. Welcome to Watch and Code office hours. The purpose of these office hours is really simple. It's just to help you as you're working through the stuff at Watch and Code. So if you have a question about practical JavaScript or Premium, it doesn't matter as long as it's stuff that's focused on Watch and Code. This is the place to come if you have questions. So just a couple of announcements to get started. This is a video chat question and answer session. So you'll want to call in into the Hangout, and I'll talk about details on how to do that. Before you do that, though, make sure to join the Facebook group if you're not in it already. And so the Facebook group is where I put up announcements and give updates. And so you want to join that because I don't often send emails. So this is often the only way to really know what's going on with Watch and Code stuff. And then if you're having trouble finding this link, it's linked in the YouTube description underneath the video. The link to this document is right there. In the link to the document, when you look at the description below the YouTube video, you can call in. So you'll want to do that if you have any questions. And then you can call in like Jason, Andrew, and Rakesh and ask your question. So those are just logistical things. We do have some new stuff this week. So I added 6 new videos to practical JavaScript. Um, these were in the interlude on, I think it was called Data Types and Comparisons. And this was interesting. So the motivation for adding these videos back into kind of one of the interludes in practical JavaScript is that throughout practical JavaScript and even through Premium and just generally a lot of programmers, I think, sometimes struggle with different subtleties when working with objects and object properties. And I think the kind of root cause of the confusion that can come when you see weird behavior or unexpected behavior with objects is a misunderstanding of how object and primitive data is actually stored inside of variables. And so I did a lot of testing over the last month, and I had, I don't know, dozens of conversations with students. I know um, Joe was called in a few seconds ago. I don't know if he's still here watching, but Joe was in those conversations, and a lot of you were in those conversations too. So if you helped me with that, then thank you for that. Um, but basically, through talking all these things through with students, I kind of figured out that once you understand how primitive and object data is stored inside of variables, all of the things that used to confuse you, like just don't, they're just erased. And so um, I think that this last set of videos, the interlude on data types and comparisons, is one of the most important pieces that I've released in quite some time. It's one of those foundational things that I didn't really realize, and I, as an instructor, didn't appreciate was very important. And I think I took it for granted because um, I thought it was clear to me, and I thought it would be clear to other people, but it was, in retrospect, an oversight on my part. And so, from learning and having a lot of different conversations, I realized um, that I needed to kind of focus on even more detail in those fundamental programming things. And it's just an interesting observation too, because I think a lot of students, they look at Watch and Code and they think of Watch and Code as a place where there's a lot of emphasis on the fundamentals, on the, like, how to think like a programmer kind of material. Um, and I think that's true, but I think for me, the realization, what I've learned is that I need to focus even more than I have been doing. And so that's just an interesting observation to make, so you can kind of see the where my head is at on the material. Um, it's almost like, to phrase it in a not positive way. It's almost like I need to be even more boring. and I think that's true, and I think I'm learning that more and more, that I need to be more and more boring, and go into even more of that detail that nobody ever asks me about, and I don't think students want to learn this stuff, but they really sorely need this stuff. So I think that I play a lot in that area of things that you didn't want to know or didn't knew that existed, but you really need to know. And I'm gonna continue trying to do that. So um, I hope that the new material is helpful. So if you do watch it, let me know what you think. Either you can come here at office hours and tell me about it, or send me an email or add a comment or whatever you want. But I am interested to see what you all think about that. Okay, so that was a long-winded ramble. From here, we can just go on to the questions. And so I'll call on people in the order that they called in. And so I think Jason was first, and then I'll go to Andrew. Jason?
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, you're pretty aware. I don't have any questions. I haven't been around a bit, but if I could go back to your the email that you sent out, I put a comment in this chat that the email sparked me to get back into this. The 6 videos you did in the, I guess, the free practical. Those were awesome. It broke things down like where I guess going through this, your course and coming back to you explaining that a little more, more in depth. It was cool.
Mhm.
Because I've been through a couple of other videos and they, you broke it down to like, don't read it like a human, read it like a computer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's almost like a mindset shift.
that is
That's
like that's a mind blowing thing to learn. Like, stop reading it like it's English or any language that you know. Read it like it's a computer. So
yeah.
that was cool. It was like two things in one week taught me the same thing, and you just reinforced it in a better way and very with your diagrams and all that. And of course, I was lazy and I didn't pause it and diagram it out
Come
myself.
on, Jason.
I should have, but so that's the laziness of me, and that's I blame myself for that. But I didn't listen to the teacher. But that's why I'm still here, and I keep coming back to this because you're always. If I don't learn it the first time, I'll go through your stuff again, and I'll do it the second time or the third time. You can't
Mhm.
force me to do things correctly. You can only tell me.
Yeah. Yeah, and just knowing that those things are happening is, I think, half the battle. And so yeah, you can go back later and do the diagrams, but I think just knowing it is really valuable. Even if you don't do the diagrams, I know I shouldn't probably be saying this because then people are going to take shortcuts, but it's okay, Jason. And the other thing you can do is if you want to challenge yourself, because I think you know this stuff a lot better than most people. You could come up with, like, just look at a different line of code, maybe something you're doing at work, and see if you can diagram that, which is not one of my examples, but like a totally example you take from the wild from your work.
But yeah,
That could be a good exercise.
use it in the real world.
Exactly. So yeah, the other thing, so I'm just showing the new stuff. The new stuff was starting from the where my cursor is. Um, wait, it's not showing up. It's the one, how are primitives and objects stored inside of variables, and then code examples 1 through 5. So that was the new stuff, and so they're all pretty short videos. A couple observations are that um, is that well, they're quizzes for the first time. I have never done quizzes, but I have like these little challenges, sort of, to try to make sure you're paying attention. So I tell you the answer right away, but I tell you to pause it and see if you can figure it out. And that's just there to keep you honest, because I noticed that a lot of people can go through this stuff really quickly, and then they actually think they understand it, but they don't. And so when you get things wrong, it's a good way to know that that you probably need to review. And so I added that, and I thought that was interesting, and feedback on that's been good so far. The other thing is that I've asked all the students in Premium to go back and watch this. And so what I found, the feedback I've gotten from students in Premium who most of them know all the concepts really well. So most of them got 100% on all the questions. But what they've said very broadly is that even though they knew it, they didn't know, they weren't like super um it wasn't very concrete in their heads. Like they didn't know exactly what was happening. And so even though going through these videos didn't really change their expectations of what code does, and you can see that by the fact that they got all the questions correct, it still made them feel better about it, more confident about it. And so that's really valuable, and I think shouldn't be undervalued. And so if you finish practical JavaScript, or if you're far beyond this stuff, it's still worth going back to if you haven't. So yeah, I think it was pretty interesting. The other thing I tried to slide in here is, I can't remember if it was code example 3 or 4, but there was one question that I anticipate most people in practical JavaScript, if they're doing this as the first course, I expect them to get it wrong. And and that's interesting. It's just kind of interesting from kind of the behind the scenes perspective, because the whole point of my doing that is to force you to pay attention and to be like, oh shit, like why isn't it what I thought it would be? And so I wanted you to have that experience. People that are taking practical JavaScript for the first time. So yeah, we probably talked about this enough, but watch them and then let me know what you think. Okay, Jason, well, thanks for joining. And if you do have any comments or anything, just let me know. And I hope you'll stick around for the chat after the broadcast too. Okay, so let's move to Andrew. Are you there?
Yeah, I am.
So you said you had 2 questions lined up?
2 questions and 1 observation.
Okay.
Okay, so the first one is, I've noticed by going through the videos of the office hours, the previous ones, I'm about half finished them. I've learned a lot of interesting things from them, as much as I can from listening to it as audio at work. Obviously, it's a little harder when you can't see the video, but nonetheless, I've noticed a lot of mention on GitHub. I have an account on one. I know you say to stay focused, but I was just wondering if it's important or relevant at this stage to work more with GitHub, or if there's a section that you introduce it. I'm going through the practical JavaScript again. I'm at 7. I'm trying to get that all firmly in my head. So that's my question, basically.
Yeah. So good question. And it's a GitHub comes up a lot. So a lot of students that are watching probably have this on their mind too. So I think my take on it is that GitHub is important, and you will need to know how to use it. But my style in general is on the very, very extreme, which is learn it at the last moment possible. And so that's my take on it. Because the reason is, the most important thing I think in the early stages is to get really good at programming. GitHub is related to programming, but it's not really programming. It's like if you're using if you're an office worker and you use Microsoft Word, it's like saving my spreadsheet V1, my spreadsheet V2, and having like a system around that. It's like, yeah, that's probably important so that you don't accidentally destroy everything. But you should probably still, like, that's important, right? But it's not the most important thing, and you could learn it when you need to, like when you actually need to do that, when you actually need to preserve versions of stuff. And I think GitHub is very much the same. So I would say kind of postpone it until you need a use for it, and then when you have a use for it, then you should learn it. So for example, a lot of watching code students they have a use for it because they want to contribute to open source. So you'll see later in accounting JS that a lot of watching code students have made contributions to accounting JS. They've made contributions to do MVC, the project that we're working on, and then obviously they need to learn GitHub to do that. And so that's a good time to learn it. What I found is that when those students have that problem, they just kind of Google it and figure it out. And so it hasn't really been a stumbling block. So I think for me, I think it makes sense to make some videos on GitHub, but of the students that need to use it, they've all figured it out. And so I don't feel like it's the best use of my time to make GitHub videos, if that makes sense. Because I think there's a lot of stuff on there. So I think when you need to use it, you can Google it for the things you need to do, and then you'll figure it out. Is my take on it. If you find that's a really arduous process, and you feel like it would be that other students and you included, we would be really well served by me having content and addressing that, let me know and I'll think about it. But yes, so far I haven't seen that be a big problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then the other problem is GitHub changes a lot. So it's like, the interface is changing all the time. They add new features and like I think for me, I started saying this a lot. It's like I try to focus on things that are important 10 years ago or important now and are going to be important for the next 10 years and beyond. I try to pinpoint those things and reveal them to you and really try to put the weight on those things that you yourself probably might ignore. And that's what I'm really focused on. And the GitHub interface hasn't been one of those things in my mind.
Okay.
So yeah. So Andrew, so short answer, when you need to use it, you'll know, and you'll Google it, and you'll figure it out. I'm confident.
Okay, excellent. Yeah.
And then
works related stuff, right? Get a portfolio, as it were.
Yep. And there are a lot of tutorials on it. So
and open source.
Yep. So I think you won't have I don't think you'll have a problem with it.
Awesome. Okay, thanks. The second thing, I noticed that some people went through the practical JavaScript course, and I noticed that they very kindly put timestamps for the videos.
Yeah.
So I noticed while listening to the office hours that some excellent questions are answered, and a number of them are asked more often than once, because maybe they don't want to go through and then they have to search for a specific answer. So I thought it might be a good idea. I'd probably just go through, because I listen to them at work, and just write down where certain questions are answered, and then put it in like a Google Doc or whatever, anything, and have those, and then put them up so that the same questions aren't kind of being asked over, and they can just quickly, I have a question, find it. I don't know what about that. It's just an idea. That's all.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I to be honest, I think it's a good idea. But I think for me, the repetition is actually really valuable, because through the repetition, I see what is truly painful for students. Because I think that if for example, we were maintaining this database of answers, right? Like timestamp this on this date and a link to it. What we basically would have is, like, we wouldn't have repeated questions anymore. And then the repeated questions data for me would be gone. And I think the repeated questions data for me, it seems annoying, but it's actually really important, because it weights the pain of the question and helps me prioritize which thing I should address first. And so my intention is not, I think Andrew, what you're doing is really above and beyond and of expectations. I really don't expect anyone to go back and watch all the office hours. Um, because it takes so long to do that. And so I admire your motivation and dedication. But but the idea is that you wouldn't have to do that, right? So like for something that comes up a lot, for example, I'll give you an example. You'll notice in if you've watched half of the office hours, you notice that I used to get a lot of questions on this keyword.
Yeah, for this
Right.
and
Yeah.
bind.
And binds, yeah. And so when I was getting those questions over and over again, I was learning that it was actually really painful, and I don't think I was teaching that very well. Right? It was pointing out areas of improvement for me, and just kind of like just seeing that it's like in many ways it's like a comment card of like someone complaining, right? When they have a question, to me, it's really it's a reflection on my work, and that it could be better, and so I think I had to go through the pain of having all those discussions. And then I kind of used all those discussions to create the cheat sheet, right? And then actually solve the problem with this series in practical JavaScript. And so that's how things have worked in the past. And I think that's been a good model. And I think for if you're watching office hours over and over again and you see the repeated questions, it could be painful. And believe me, it's painful to to field those questions repeatedly, but it's necessary for me to find where my weaknesses are. So I think
Good attitude.
yeah, it helps me improve essentially. And so any impediments for me to see the truth of like where the problems are, I think would counterintuitively be like bad, because it seems like a convenience, but it in the long run I think is actually will cloud my perspective.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to see, if something's coming up over and over again, I have to deal with it, and when I deal with it, I'll do something about it. Right? It's very much like for example, other companies that have a separate customer service department. The people creating the product and they're people doing customer support, and they're two different departments.
Yeah.
And I think that's wrong. I think that's okay. It obviously works for a lot of people, but it doesn't lead to the best results, because the creators need to feel the pain. The creators need to hear the complaints, right? And so I'm putting myself in that position because it's part of the creative. It leads to quality, and it's painful, and it's shitty, and it's uncomfortable, and it's annoying, and it's frustrating, and it's a lot of different things. But it's very necessary, and it's like eating, it's like it reminds me of eating healthy, right? You might want eating healthy is very painful for a lot of
Correct.
people, but
Exercise.
it's very quite necessary. And I think this is the company version of eating healthy versus outsourcing support and just like being delusional.
Okay, that makes perfect sense, actually.
Yeah. Any other questions, Andrew?
Just a statement or
Okay.
observation. The new practical JavaScript videos that you put in, they were excellent and short and to the point. And so I went through them, got the first one right, not too hard right. The second one, I got only half right, so I got wrong. And then the third one I got right. It made excellent sense after you went through it. So thank you. And I noticed that you do like a lot of free things, including these office hours, and it's actually very much appreciated. So thank you very much. And that's my observation.
Oh, you're welcome. And yeah, thank you. Thanks for that.
That's it.
Yeah,
For
I think just a note on that. Honestly, I don't know. I battle with this. Like, and I often ask myself the question, what would I do if I had unlimited resources? Um, and I think if you ask me when I started the company, so if you asked me 3, 4 years ago, I would have said I want everything to be free. And obviously that's not possible because I'm working.
Unrealistic.
Yeah, I think that, so but I think the idealistic question and answer is very instructive because it points to what you care about. And and so that is something I care about. So I do it as much as I can, but then there's a certain point at which it's not practical anymore. Um, I think though, like if I really did have unlimited means and I didn't have to make money, and I don't know, I had a rich parents or something. I think the my answer today would be a little bit different. It wouldn't be that I would make everything free. It would be that it would be free for the people that are putting in a lot of effort. And so for the people that, so for example, that ask amazing questions, that are really thoughtful, that are consistent, for them it's free, right? And so the idea is that you have equal opportunity for everybody. Like the opportunity for everyone is there. And if you want the opportunity, then you can have it. But it's not free. It's not free in the sense that anyone can have it. It's like you have to want it and then you can have it. And I think if you asked me today, and maybe one day if I do have the means, I could have a system like that. It's quite hard to have a system like that because figuring that out is really hard. But yeah, that'll be my answer today. Maybe one day that'll happen. And I think it's not just for me. I think there's a lot of things that protect me because if I had a system like that, it would the students that it's only students that are committed, so the community is really strong and really motivated, and I think that makes it great for everybody. Not people that just want, oh, it's free, so I signed up, right? Those are not the people that make up a good community. A lot of people, although a lot of those people do exist. And so I think it's very much for the benefit of the community, but also frankly a selfishness where it's like I want to spend time with people that are really motivated. That's where I feel like my time is best leveraged, right? It's not equal ability. It's not about how talented you are, but it's about how much you want it. If you want it, I want to help you. And I still feel like that today, right? I think I'm biased. Everyone has biases and tendencies. I'm included. Everyone has this, whether you admit them or not. I love students that try hard, and I really like that. And I think every teacher probably likes that. So yeah, that to me is like a meritocracy based on effort is an interesting idea. And it's something that maybe when I do have the means, I can think about it more. And I think in a lot of ways, watching code is that. So for example, there's a natural attrition. So for example, a lot of students, I think, are very shocked at the way I answer questions.
Yeah.
So I think with teaching, it's just like being a parent in many ways. I know maybe Jason can correct me because I'm not actually a parent. I have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. So I'm probably wrong. And Jason's probably cringing and being like, Jordan's so dumb. But
Keep going.
but okay, so Jason, you can add your take. But it's like if you want your students or your kids to do certain things, you have to hold them to that expectation. And if you don't do that, you're actually doing them a disservice. Like if you don't accept, or if you don't require excellence, you won't get it. And
Amen.
And that's really hard to do. I think it's really hard to do from my perspective because giving them the answer is often easier. Like sometimes you just want to give your kids what you want, and I think that's a lot of parents do that, and I think a lot of times that's easier to do, and your kids will love you for it at that moment. they might not love you for it when they're older and feel like they don't have any motivation, don't know how to do anything, but they'll love you for that in that moment. And so as a parent or a teacher, it's very, you want to give it to them. You want to give them an answer. You want to make them happy. You don't want to be like, oh man, no, you you got to go back and rework this.
But it doesn't
Right?
better
Because yeah, exactly. So but that, I think that forcing them to reach this, have this standard of quality is so hard to do as a teacher and as a parent, because the students and the kids don't appreciate it. They actually in many ways will hate you for it. And I get that heat too. And a lot of it's my fault too, because I think I could be sometimes more, a lot of times I think could be warmer, more compassionate, more understanding. I know I could improve on those things, but
do you have?
I think, Jason, what was that?
I said, but do you have to though?
I think in the ideal world, I would have those qualities. I do my best.
very little.
But but I think the hard truth to swallow, like if you have a question and you're like, why doesn't my code work? And you just give me the error message, it's like, I cannot answer your question, right? Like it's impossible, actually impossible for me to answer this question. And then you need to like check yourself and fix your process. Otherwise you will not, this is over essentially. Like when those questions come in of that quality, and if that is not addressed, it's basically over. That has to be fixed.
I agree.
If that person is to have a future, I think if they're motivated, they will figure it out. Maybe not immediately, but I think a lot of instructors don't point the students to the thing they need to do, and I try to do it immediately, and it's uncomfortable, and it can feel like I'm attacking you. I think a lot of students feel, but I'm doing it not because that's what I think, that's what you need, and that's in your best interest. It is actually harder for me to do that, I think. And I think that's what a lot of students don't appreciate. They think that I'm being an ass. And I think that's okay. I think that's okay. I think that's the price of, if we're for a parent to, not give the kids what they want whenever they want it. It's like they might hate you for it at that moment, but that's okay.
That's why I've never left, and I've been here since I signed up. And like, I like your brutal honesty. I like you being mean. I like you saying you're not going to hold my hand. I like, but that all goes back to figure it out yourself. You're giving me the tools to figure things out. So you either use those tools or you don't.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not here to waste your time. You're not here to waste mine. I'm not here to waste my coworkers' time.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I've learned a ton from you, and I try to teach coworkers the same thing. But some people just don't get it.
Mm.
They just want to slide and take the easy road and say I give up, and then make you do their work for them.
Yep.
So it happens, and like I have, I'm sure you've had people above you that are maybe smarter and know the product more than you do. I have people that know my product better than I do, but I will figure out the problem before I go to them. I'm not going to waste their time. And when I do, if I have to come to them, I will have my questions ready and to minimize the time that they have to spend on the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
To where you have some people or just be like, I put no work into this, you figure it out for me.
Yep. Exactly.
That's all.
So yeah, and I think I think even though it's a minority of students, that might be harsh, but it really is. A minority of students is ready for this message, like understands how hard it is, and wants that. They want that experience that I'm providing. They want the discomfort, because that's what leads to growth. And so that's why I keep on doing it. If there were no students like that, I think it'd be quite depressing, and I don't think this would work. But like, those students are out there, and so they give me hope, and it's a lot of fun to work with them. So that's why I keep doing it. And the results, I think, really speak for themselves. I'm always like really impressed with how good students can get from and I can remember when they first started and see the difference. And that's yeah, I'm convinced that it works. So
Yeah. It's fun to watch the growth of students, and just like I think we have this conversation like a while ago. Why aren't you joining office hours? Are you scared to be on camera? Are you scared of this? You got to get over the hump of either one being yelled at or two like being like it's okay if you're wrong.
mm-hmm. Yep.
Just getting over the hump of because you're going to be in the real world and you're going to have a senior developer saying your shit sucks. Like it's okay to have Gordon tell you your shit sucks. You did it wrong, or
Yep.
like criticism is amazing.
Yeah. Andrew, did you have any other questions or observations?
I actually had one more idea, but I'd like to see if other people have something to ask too. I don't want to.
Okay, we can come back to you. Write it down so you don't forget. Rakesh, are you there? Rakesh?
Hello.
Hey.
Hey. Actually, it's my first office hour, so it's actually 8 a.m. in morning in India. So can I say good morning to all of you?
Yeah, good morning, Rakesh.
Morning.
Thanks for joining.
Morning.
Actually, I love practical JavaScript, so that's why I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, I'm in jQuery section. You know that. So there is a create method, and I think in line number 139.
Wait, hold on. Can you
there is
share?
a if
Can you
statement.
share your screen so we can see the code?
Okay. Wait there.
So in the top left, there's a green icon with the arrow on it. It should be the second from the top. And
Can you see? So can you see that?
Not yet. No.
Hello. Okay. Wait. Okay, wait for a second.
I can see you. You're a Yankees fan.
Okay. Oh my god, what was happening?
Okay, perfect. I can see your screen now. You're good.
So yeah, right there. If e dot which is not equal to enter key or val inverse. So my question is, what is the work of val inverse? I know it's preventing entity to do, but what is the logic behind it? I just want to know that.
Wait, sorry. Can you repeat the question? What? I didn't catch that.
Okay. I'm repeating that.
Okay.
You can see that line. So I just want to know what is the work of val inverse. What is val inverse doing here?
Oh, okay. So there are two checks here, right? So e which is the key that was pressed.
Yes.
Basically, it's saying if it's not the enter key, then just stop. So return just stops the function, and it ends this function call. So in other words, if you don't hit enter, then don't create anything. In the other case, so the OR operator will only go to so honestly, sometimes I get confused. So if it's not this or val, so val is there to check if there's actually a value. So val is a variable from 137. So it's basically to check if it's empty. So if it's empty, that will be true as well, and then it will return. So here's I guess if statements are hard. Like even when I look at this, I've seen this a bunch of times. I still have to like slow down and think about it. So the best way to look at this is to just go through examples. Like, can you put a breakpoint and create?
Yeah, why not?
And let's say, let's put in, I don't know, Rakesh.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, just type in a, wait, you have a breakpoint somewhere else. Can you remove that one? Because
Okay.
The or operator, we're just saying if either of these are true, we're continuing.
I think there's no breakpoint.
Oh, there's no breakpoint. Okay, so just type in like hi and then hit enter.
Okay. Wait for a minute. Oh, it's on.
Okay, so step over twice.
Okay.
Okay, stop. Now, what's gonna happen if you don't hit enter? If you hit something else? Oh wait,
Yeah.
you did hit enter, right?
Okay.
Wait, did you hit enter or not?
No.
What key did you hit? So can you hover over which?
That's 69.
69. And what's enter key?
Enter
Hover
key
over
13.
enter. Hover over enter
It's
key.
13.
Okay.
It's 13.
So so e dot which is not equal to enter key, and so the first part of this will be true, and then
Okay.
it will return. It's just stop.
Okay.
And so that makes sense, right? Because
Yes.
they didn't intend to add anything. And so if you wait, can you highlight e dot which? So start highlighting from e, starting from e all the way to the end of enter key. You have to be precise, like right. You have to start exactly on e, not on the parentheses. Yeah. And then select enter key and stop, and then hover over that.
Oh.
So you can see that that's true, right? And so if it's true, then you will go into the if statement and you just return and stop. And that
Yeah.
makes sense because you're not
Yes.
trying to enter it. So just hit play and then you can play through. Now in the opposite case, so what I want you to do is run a series of events that will cause you to evaluate the bang val on the right side of the or statement.
Sorry,
Can
I
you do
didn't
that?
get you.
Okay,
Sorry, I don't understand.
you don't understand. So can you get the right side of, so the part you've highlighted is to the left of the or. Can you get the right
Okay.
side of it to run? Can you do that?
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah, can you get that to run?
Okay.
I want you to get in the habit of doing this so you can explore how this works. And so when you
Okay.
come to another scenario like this, you can just run these experiments and then you can see exactly what's happening.
Okay.
So tell us exactly what you're doing. So when you type in
I'm going to press enter.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm going to press space. So
Okay.
it's get an empty value. Come on. Yeah.
So can you walk us through what happens?
Yeah. Yep.
So can you highlight from E what?
Okay.
Yeah, so you can highlight that. So that is no, just the first part of it.
Okay.
So what is that?
It's true.
But I thought you said you'd hit space, not enter.
Yes, I hit space.
Oh yeah, so it's not enter. Yeah, perfect. So that's true.
Okay.
And so did it evaluate the right hand side?
Yes, its value is empty.
But it didn't really evaluate the right hand side though.
Yep.
because the first part was true, it just
Yeah.
it didn't evaluate the right hand side. So
No.
so what I want you to do is to have a situation where the part you've highlighted is false, but the exclamation point val is true.
Okay.
Can you do that?
Okay, I get it. Yeah, yeah. Yes.
So what key did you press?
Enter. Now enter.
Okay. So hit step. Okay, stop. And I guess hit. So wait, do step into. Wait, do step into. See if that does anything.
Sorry.
Hit the step into button. Yeah, hit that once. Okay. Well, so highlight E which all the way to enter key. So highlight the left side of the or. Yeah, highlight that and then hover over it. So that's false.
Okay.
So then
False.
it had to evaluate the right side, right? So then hover over exclamation point val. No, hover over just exclamation point val.
Okay, okay, okay. I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm sorry. Yeah. I think it's val is empty. Val is empty now. It's showing you.
Wait, it's not giving you so if you hover over exclamation point val, it's not giving you back anything?
No. It's just a empty string.
But can you actually highlight exclamation point val?
Yep. Yeah.
And hover over it. See, it's true. Right.
Yeah.
So what have you learned here? Can you explain it to me?
Yeah. If I just I don't know how to explain it, but
do you get it now?
Yeah, I get it now.
Well, try to explain it.
If enter key is pressed and there is an empty to do, so it's going to return, not going to add the to do.
Right. Because you don't want to add blank
yes.
items. Exactly.
Yeah. Now I get it.
Yeah, and then if you don't hit the enter key, then return also because you didn't intend to add it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Now it's clear.
Cool. So that's not so bad, right?
No.
Yeah. So
actually, I just want to know it one-on-one with you, so I don't put it on Slack. So I think it's a good choice to go office hour and ask Gordon about it. So I just do it.
Wait, what? I didn't understand.
Hello.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm more confused about this, so I don't put the question on Slack. So I think it's better to ask Gordon in office hour.
Yeah.
So I don't put this question on Slack. Hope you understand. So thank you so much. Now it's clear.
You're welcome. Yeah, if you can make office hours, it's always the best place to ask because it's hard.
Yeah.
Asking complicated questions over text is hard. So there's and it's very difficult for me to guide you through the process that you should go through and answering.
I know.
So.
I know. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's why you are the best.
Thanks, Rakesh. Well, keep up the good work.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. That's it from me.
Sweet. All right. Thanks for your question, Rakesh. So you just got one more person. Hernando, are you there?
Hey, Gordon.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, not too bad.
So, what did you have any questions with the?
No, I don't have any questions. I've been doing the course. I think I finished the practical JavaScript about 2 months ago, and I started the premium content. I'm just finishing up on the reduce method for the testing part.
Nice.
I've slowed down a bit. I had other commitments, but I'm still doing like an hour and a bit a day.
That's perfect.
But now I'm just speeding up again. But I mean, I haven't had any major problems. I mean, the only real terror I had was when I finished practical JavaScript and I started the premium content. When I first saw that jQuery code, it just completely demoralized me.
I'm sorry.
I thought, why am I being thrown into this without any, any understanding of this? I mean, because it was such a massive jump. But then I slowly realized that that's the whole point. You're not meant to go down all these rabbit holes. You're meant to just, learn what you need to learn for whatever the task is at hand.
Yeah.
And
then if you do that, it's not so bad, right?
Yeah, I mean, when I look at the code now, it's a breeze. I can just use it's like reading English, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, that was quite eye-opening. But and now, I mean, the testing series is really good as well. That's very eye-opening. I didn't even realize there was such a way to code like that.
Yeah.
But but no, I mean,
changes the way you code too. It changes
I mean, I wasn't even aware that people actually code like this. That they do.
Yeah.
Because normally you just think of everything. I mean, normally what I do, I just switch off the light, lie down, and just let it whir in my head. But it's a really hard way to do it. Once I've been exposed to this testing stuff, it's quite amazing how you go from the smallest bit and just slowly, build functionality into your code.
Yep.
So no, I mean, I'm enjoying it. I haven't had any major problems. I mean, I've been able to overcome everything, But yeah. So,
what have been some of the more challenging bits?
The only challenging bit, because I haven't had any problems with the testing. It was only that really when I first jumped into the jQuery part. That was it was just the intimidation that I felt when I first saw it.
I see.
And but when I think the intimidation was because I have an age to go too deep into things. So you think, oh my God, I've got to learn jQuery. You start jumping in, and you go too far into it.
Yep.
Where the whole point is to just learn just what you need.
Yep.
And gradually, I mean, when something else comes, you learn as much as you need. I think you mentioned this before, and that was just a fantastic way of doing it. And now I can just look at that code, and it's it's nothing to me.
Yep.
It's not intimidating at all.
It's one of those things that the learn just what you need is intellectually easy to understand, but it's always hard to do.
Yeah, it is.
Because you feel like you just feel like you don't know about a bunch of stuff. And it's very uncomfortable.
You have this, I don't know what it is. It seems to be some demon inside you pushing you to go further into the hole.
Yep.
Thinking that you need the knowledge when you don't actually. Like you said, I mean, what's the point of knowing something if you're not gonna use it? It's just pointless, isn't it? I mean, if you go too far into a subject without it actually having any application for you at the time,
Yep, for sure. Yeah, it's interesting because as you continue, that's a skill you're gonna hone more and more, because as you get more advanced, the stuff you're dealing with becomes more complicated. So for example, your threshold for what intimidates you starts to get higher and higher and higher until you start not to have the threshold at all. Your perspective is instead, how long will it take me? Not if I can do it. It's like, if I want to do it, I can, but just how long will it take? And so it's interesting because when you have projects that grow larger and larger and larger, that focus becomes even more important. I think it becomes exponentially more important. Because you'll get to the point where you can't even read the whole program because it's too large. And so forget about understanding the whole program. You have to understand a portion of the program and feel okay with that. And how do you do that? It's actually a hard thing to do. And that's kind of what we're grappling with in Underscore a little bit.
Okay. Well, look forward to it. But like I said, I've had no major problems. But I think because I mean I had coded a little bit before when I was a teenager, and assembly language, so I had a little bit of just as a hobby. So it kind of like, I mean, even that was what 30 years ago. So that was you know, I used to do like programming assembly language on microcontrollers just as a hobby, and I think that I'm a bit technically minded anyway, so that kind of helped, you know. But the whole coding thing is actually new for me. You know?
Yep. Okay, sweet. Well, Hernando, thanks for dropping by. I'm gonna try to get to Eric next, but if you do come up with a question, let me know, and then we chat for a little bit after the broadcast too. So hope you'll stick around for that.
Okay, thanks.
Eric, are you there? So Eric, I was muting you because there was I was hearing the video stream in your mic. So Eric, can you unmute now? Eric? Okay, we'll give Eric a minute. So Eric, I guess just talk when you can. Let us go back to Andrew. Andrew, you said you had one more thing, and then we'll come back to Eric once he gets his mic working.
Hello.
Oh, hey, Eric. All right, let's.
Can you hear me?
I'll answer Eric's question first. Yeah, Eric. Sorry about. Yeah, can you hear me?
I have poor internet here. Hello.
You think what?
I have really bad internet around here, so.
Eric, you have to turn off the live stream. You're watching the live stream. You need to turn that off.
Hello.
I'll answer Eric's question first. Eric, sorry about. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So, Eric, you're gonna hear this 1 minute later because you're listening to the live stream, not the. You're listening to the YouTube live stream, not the real-time conversation. And so I muted you again. So when you hear this a minute later after I say it, you want to turn the YouTube page. You have a YouTube address and you have a YouTube tab open on your computer, close it, and then you can talk to us.
Is it okay now?
Can you hear me? Eric, can you hear me? Yes, Eric, you don't have your sound turned on in the Google Hangout, so you can't hear us. So once you can hear us in the Google Hangout and not on the YouTube stream, then I'll come back to you after that. We'll probably just talk after the broadcast ends. Andrew, we'll do your last question and then we'll end the broadcast.
Okay, sure. Sounds good. I just noticed a question in the live chat on YouTube. But anyways, mine is on, have you ever used or heard of Anki? A-N-K-I?
No.
Oh, okay. It's a flashcard system. So I was just wondering, or it was just an idea. Just another idea. That's all of, you know, even if you charge and if you know how to do it, make flashcards based on your curriculum to aid in learning. It was just an idea.
Yeah, so my reaction to this is probably pretty extreme. I don't think that's a good use of time, because I don't think you should memorize anything. And this is it's a subtle argument, so bear with me. I know people are gonna be like, what are you talking about? You have to remember some stuff. So what I do is I never remember anything. I don't even try to memorize stuff, because if I see it again and I don't remember, I'll just look it up, right? And so there are a lot of things you learn that you just never see again, and so you actually don't want to memorize it. Like by default, you don't want to memorize everything. If you knew exactly what you needed to know in the future, and you're a genie, then you can guess what you'll need to know next week, then I guess you can memorize the things you'll need to know next week. but none of us are that smart. So what I do instead is I don't even try to remember anything. I don't even attempt, and I definitely don't use flashcards. But so for example, with this, let's give a concrete example. If you're just doing practical JavaScript, that this keyword is going to be really awkward and intimidating and feel crappy generally, and that's okay. Every single time you see this in a function, pull out the cheat sheet and try to figure out what case you're looking at. And if you do that enough, you will memorize the things, but naturally, right? Because you're actually trying to figure things out. So that's one example. So that's how I tend to do stuff. So if I see this and I don't know what it is, then I'll go look it up. And if you do that enough, then you end up remembering it temporarily, right? So, so for example, if you looked up this 8 times in a month, you probably remember all the cases. You might not be able to apply them perfectly, but you know of them, like you know what each case is. But in the next month, if you don't use it at all, you might forget. And so I think we should just embrace that.
So
you're gonna forget. You're gonna forget it next month if you never look at it. And so if you next month when you haven't been looking at it, just look it up again, and then you'll refresh, right? So like focus on being quick to recall and refresh information. And if you do that enough, for a temporary amount of time, you'll have the illusion of memorizing it, right? But it's an illusion, and so don't chase it or try to go for it. The memorization is a unfortunate artifact of our shitty school system, where you have a test on a certain date and you have to memorize stuff.
Like wasted memory space.
Yeah, but but that's not real life. Real life is quite different.
So you're talking about internalizing concepts and logic versus just hard memorization at the time. I don't believe in cramming or any of that. I just noticed with studies of languages that the spaced repetition helps.
Well, spaced repetition happens naturally when you look things up when you don't remember them.
So you're talking about I should just be using it as much as possible, and over time it's just gonna.
Yes.
Okay.
And you'll internalize it. And if you forget it, it's okay. You just internalize it again, right? So, but don't sit there with flashcards. I think that's a very poor, unfortunate thing we've learned from school. And it's been indoctrinated into us from age 5. I don't know when kindergartners start, whenever, from kindergarten all the way through college and then graduate school. And then professional exams, right? If you're I don't know, when you take the driver's test, you have to memorize stuff and then do a multiple choice. Like there's all this stuff where you have to memorize things. And I for programming, I really don't think that is actually useful.
Okay. Well, I hate the school system and the way it works, so that's no problem ignoring that.
But if you are in school, that my advice doesn't follow. If you're in a arbitrary, artificial system where you have to take a test, you do have to memorize stuff. So caveat there. Don't take my advice and fail and then drop out of college, and just don't
college.
Fail, or drop out of high school. In high school, you still have to memorize stuff, and you know if you're in school, you still have to memorize stuff. Unfortunately, that's just the reality of it. But in programming, in real programming, you don't, unless you're taking programming exams at school. Then you have to memorize stuff.
I wish I was still in high school.
No, I don't think so. High schoolers have it hard. There's a lot of stuff. It's hard.
It's true.
Okay,
thank you.
Yep. Yeah, so Hernando had a comment which was embrace amnesia. That's a little bit too extreme. I don't know if it's embrace amnesia. But that's closer to I think what most people are doing, which is they're trying to like memorize stuff, which is I think the most counterproductive the most counterproductive thing that makes you feel productive, right? Those things are the worst. If it's not actually useful, but it makes you feel it seems useful, those are the worst time sinks, I think. And then if someone has a counter argument and they think that it's actually super useful and they think that I'm wrong or something, or I'm not seeing a certain thing, you can just add a comment, and I'll be interested to see if there are any good counter arguments for. Remember, keep in mind, we're not optimizing to take a test, right? We're yeah, like Jason just had a comment where it's like an open book test, right? So I think the analogy I've used this in the past, I forgot, which is like we learn programming as if on January 1st we're going to take a test, right, on practical JavaScript stuff, and we think we study like that, and I promise you I'm not going to test you on January 1st. So I don't know why why you're trying to learn like that. If it's helpful, because we're so brainwashed, think about it like this. Most people have had open book tests. When you have an open book test, you don't memorize things, do you? You really focus on understanding it. And then you might have a cheat sheet, maybe, but in our case, the cheat sheet might just be comments you wrote above the code. And then if someone asks you a question about it, you refer to your cheat sheet. So you refer to your source code with your comments, or you look at this cheat sheet, right? But you never memorize stuff in an open book test with unlimited time. Keep in mind that.
That makes sense.
Programming is to use a school analogy, because people are very wedded to the school analogy, and it's a hard thing to if you're brainwashed by school, it's very hard to see things clearly. So I'll use something you're comfortable with. Open book test with unlimited time is the right analogy, and so act accordingly, study accordingly. When you have an open book test with unlimited time, you don't use flashcards, do you?
So learn how to research, and yes, that makes sense.
Yep. Thanks, Jason, for the analogy.
Yeah, copy pasting. That's like every Udemy course.
Yeah, and yeah, you have to understand it, not copy and paste. Okay, well, Eric, if you're watching, I'm sorry about the technical issues. You can try to call back in, and I think Google Hangouts, if you just like look at troubleshooting, see if you can get the audio to work. But maybe just like restarting your computer sometimes helps. So sorry about that, Eric. But I think that's it. So I'll just, so Alex Pena had a question in the live chat. I'll broadcast it so people can see it. Gordon, I have finished practical JavaScript. I understand the program, but only understand about 80% of how it works. Should I move on to premium or go through it one more time? Neither. So Alex, that 20% that you don't understand, you should attack that 20% and make sure that it's understood. So there are a couple ways to do that. It's good that you're not going to use flashcards. But you could, if you have a specific question about a certain thing, the process in the How to Ask Questions article is really helpful. It's the same thing I do. It's the way I've learned. And you should just do that with every single item in that 20%, go through that process on it. And then of the things you can't figure it out, just, you have to just let yourself struggle with it. And then if you can't figure it out, and you've gone through that process, then you should come to office hours and I'll help you and make sure that the next time you write your comment, it says, I understand 100% of it. So I hope that helps, Alex. But it's not like, so to be clear, I'm not saying just go through it again. I think you might end up doing that in the process of attacking that 20%, because you find you need to review other things. But you really have to, I think, go through it in a focused way. Don't just like redo everything, including the 80% you understand. I think that's okay, but that's not really addressing the real problem that you have, which is that 20%. So make sure to attack that aggressively and go through the questions article and actually do that methodically. And then if you're still stuck, come to office hours, and you'll get unstuck if you do that. I promise. Okay. Well, thanks for that question, Alex. Eric, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sweet. So, okay. Well, did you have a question, Eric?
Oh, not really. I don't really have a question.
Okay. Well, what have you been up to?
I spent a whole lot of time. I spent a whole lot of time trying to make the thing work on using my phone.
On what?
On the Android. I actually finished practical JavaScript once, then followed with the premium course, the practical JavaScript once more.
Got it.
So yeah, I really focused on toggle, or where you change the for each, and I got some good understanding over there.
Nice. That's great.
Yeah, I mean the array methods. You see, you have this dot to do with the bracket I, and then dot completed. I realized that if you ever get confused, you just have to focus on where the array is, where this dot to do, that's the actual array. So you just call the for each over there, and then you'll be okay. Yeah. So that was like something I realized on the second try. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, good work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, if there are no more questions, we're a little bit past the hour, so I'll end the broadcast. And
Okay.
Eric, I think Eric and Hernando are. I might be wrong, but I think you guys are new to this. And so after the broadcast ends, we usually have just a quick casual chat about stuff. So you should stick around if you want to just and it's a lot of the students talking to each other, which is nice too. So you should stick around after end the broadcast. But for people that are watching, thank you for joining, and I hope this was helpful. And I hope to see you next week.